The Ballentine Blueprint, a legacy forged. The late afternoon sun, a generous painter, spilled ochre and gold across the worn porch of Pops Elias's home. The air, thick with the scent of honeysuckle and distant barbecue, hummed with the lazy rhythm of a summer day in the neighborhood. 17-year-old Junior Ballentine Francis, a lanky frame perpetually slouching, fidgeted on the swing, his eyes tracking a solitary kite dancing against the boundless blue. He wasn't particularly interested in kites. His mind, a restless sea, was navigating the choppy waters of choices, a precarious journey through the currents of immediate gratification and an undefined future. Pops Elias, a man whose presence commanded respect without uttering a single demand, watched his grandson from his favorite rocking chair. His skin, a rich mahogany polished by years, stretched taut over a frame that had seen seasons change, society shift, and dreams rise and fall. He possessed the quiet power of an ancient oak, its roots deep, its branches a shelter. He knew the eddies in Junior's young soul, the allure of the easy path that promised quick cash but delivered only quicksand. Today, he felt the weight of an unspoken inheritance, a legacy not of material wealth, but of wisdom, waiting to be transferred. "Come here, boy," Pops Elias called, his voice a low rumble, rich with the timbre of experience. "Let's have a conversation. I got a few nuggets I would like for you to take with you." Junior, recognizing the gravity in his grandfather's tone, the kind that transcended mere suggestion and bordered on a gentle command, pushed himself off the swing and settled on the step at Pops's feet. He knew these nuggets. They weren't gold coins, though they held far greater value. They were distilled truths, hard-won lessons sharper than any blade. Junior had been spending more time lately with a crowd that smelled of desperation and false bravado, their pockets jingling with fleeting gains, their futures as hazy as exhaust fumes. Pops had seen the signs, the evasive glances, the new sneakers that appeared too suddenly, the subtle shift in vocabulary, peppered with terms lifted from the streets. He loved Junior fiercely, enough to cut through the noise and lay bare the truth. "Pops," Junior mumbled, tracing patterns on the dusty wood with his finger. "What's on your mind?" Pops Elias leaned forward, his gaze piercing, yet filled with an immeasurable love. "What's on my mind, Junior, is your future, and our future. A future that needs a solid foundation, not one built on shifting sands." He paused, allowing his words to settle like stones in a still pond. "Let me tell you something about selling weed on the street corner. It's like a part-time job with a full-time prison sentence always on the horizon." Junior shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't confessed anything, but Pops always knew. It was like his grandfather had a satellite dish tuned directly to the whispers of the neighborhood. "But Pops, some guys say it's the only way to get by, to make ends meet quick." Pops Elias chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "Quick ends maybe, but never true ends. You never leave the neighborhood, son. You become an anchor, stuck to a small patch of concrete, watching the world spin by. You don't make enough money to truly lift yourself, let alone your family. It's a gilded cage, Junior, where the bars are made of desperation, and the key is always just out of reach." He spoke with the quiet authority of someone who had observed this tragic opera play out countless times. "You run the risk of getting caught up, and I don't just mean by the law, though that's a very real and present danger. I mean caught up in a cycle, a current that pulls you further and further from shore until you forget what dry land even looks like." He tapped Junior's knee gently. "And here's the kicker, the real tragedy. You cannot pass it down to your kids as generational wealth. You can't put street corner distribution on a wheel. It dies with you, or worse, it follows your children as a shadow." Pops's voice softened, but the conviction remained ironclad. "Unless you open up a real business, something you could grow, something with roots that run deep into the community, something that could weather storms and yield fruit for generations. Something you could legally, proudly, and profitably pass down to your kids as generational wealth. That's the difference between planting a seed in fertile soil and scattering dust in the wind. Junior chewed on his lip, the allure of quick cash suddenly paling against the bleak landscape Pops was painting. He thought of his friend Malik, who'd just been caught up last week, his dreams put on hold, perhaps indefinitely. Pops continued, his gaze drifting to the horizon, as if seeing beyond the rooftops to a grander vision. America is like a magnificent, powerful machine, Junior, a marvel of engineering, truly. And African Americans in America, my boy, are like the intricate, essential parts that come together to run that machine. We are the gears, the levers, the circuits, the very fuel that often makes it hum. But for too long, we've been treated like spare parts, easily replaced or overlooked, when in truth, our absence would grind the whole operation to a halt. All they have to do, he emphasized, turning his focus back to Junior, his eyes alight with a simmering fire, is recognize that each and every one is an intricate part of the entire system. But more than that, we need to recognize that we could potentially be a system within itself, a self-sustaining, self-determining organism, thriving and prosperous. If we could stop dividing amongst ourselves, Junior, stop fighting amongst ourselves over crumbs when we have bakeries to build, if we could unite, truly unite, and build to achieve greatness within the community, from all aspects, schools that teach our truth and our potential, churches that preach not just salvation, but also liberation and community building, Fortune 500 companies born from our genius, banks that invest in our dreams, even to the point where we could have our own police force and military if we needed to protect our own interests, our own peace. Imagine that, Junior, a complete ecosystem powered by us for us. Junior sat up straighter, his mind struggling to grasp the enormity of his grandfather's vision. It was a picture so vast, so empowering, it made the idea of a street corner seem infinitesimally small, almost ridiculous. The subtle shifts in his perception were like tectonic plates moving, slow but unstoppable. He felt a stir, a spark of something new and potent. Pops Elias saw the nascent flicker in Junior's eyes, a hungry curiosity replacing the old weariness. This was the moment to pour more fuel on the fire. "Do you know, Junior," he continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone, "the GDP for African Americans in America is almost more than Barbados, Cayman Islands, Mexico, Argentina, and France combined? Think about that. We have an economic engine, a vibrant marketplace, a consumer base, and an innovative spirit that could rival entire nations." Junior's jaw dropped. Combined? All those countries? He'd never heard anything like it. His history classes, his news feeds, nothing had ever presented such a monumental picture of Black economic power. It was like discovering he had been walking on a mountain of gold, completely oblivious. "Combined, and then some," Pops affirmed with a knowing nod. "It means, my boy, that African Americans have the potential to be a country within a country. Not separate necessarily, but a powerful, unified force that commands respect and builds its own destiny. We are a river, Junior, a mighty river that has been diverted and dammed, but its natural course holds immense power and fertile ground if we choose to unleash it." He leaned in closer, his next words resonating with the weight of generations. "Where a seat at the table is not considered a diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI quota. DEI is a good step, it opens doors, but it's still often based on someone else's invitation. No, where a seat at the table is not a DEI gesture, but a rite of passage. It's earned, it's deserved, it's naturally ours because we built part of the table or helped design the very room it sits in." Pop's eyes gleamed. "I also want to say, having a seat at the table is good, it's an achievement. But it's better, Junior, if you could own the table, own the chairs, own the room, own the building, own the whole block. Then you're not waiting for an invitation, you're setting the menu. You're deciding who gets to eat, and you're ensuring there's enough for everyone who contributes to the feast." The gravity of Pop's words settled over Junior like a cloak. owning the table. The phrase echoed in his mind, displacing the petty ambitions of the street corner, replacing them with a vision of empowerment that felt both monumental and achievable. It was a double entendre of power, not just physical ownership, but self-determination, control over one's destiny, and the ability to dictate terms rather than merely accept them. Always remember, Junior, Pops concluded, his voice dropping to a serious, almost somber tone. Don't let them pay you to stay away. Don't let the crumbs from their table distract you from building your own banquet hall. Don't let them lure you with comfort that keeps you from your true potential, from contributing to our collective strength. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the neighborhood, a familiar landscape, but now seen through a different lens. And don't fall for the liquor store traps, not just the physical places, Junior, but the mental ones. The traps of escapism, of fleeting highs, of anything that blurs your vision and dulls your ambition. Clarity and direction are important. It's hard to move forward if you're impaired. Impaired by bad choices, impaired by limited vision, impaired by substances that steal your focus. You need to see the path clear as day and walk it with purpose. That's how we build. That's how we own. That's how we forge a legacy that shines brighter than any street lamp. Junior looked up at Pops, his eyes wide and unblinking. It wasn't just a conversation, it was an awakening. The weight of his own undirected energy, the allure of the shortcuts, the subtle anxieties about his future, all of it seemed to dissipate under the blazing sun of Pop's wisdom. He saw it now, not as an abstract dream, but as a tangible blueprint. The street corner wasn't just a dead end, it was a distraction, a minuscule eddy in a potential ocean of influence. His grandfather hadn't just spoken words, he had handed him a telescope, allowing him to see constellations where he had only seen darkness. The nuggets weren't just advice, they were foundational stones for an empire. The machine, the parts, the country within a country, the table, it all clicked into a harmonious, powerful vision. A profound sense of purpose, a feeling he hadn't known before, bloomed in his chest. It wasn't just about him anymore, it was about us. The inherent power, the collective might, the undeniable potential. It resonated with a truth that transcended personal ambition. He suddenly felt a sense of responsibility, not as a burden, but as a privilege. He looked at his hands, hands that had almost dabbled in illicit trade, and now saw them as instruments capable of building, creating, and leading. Pops, Junior said, his voice quiet but firm, imbued with a newfound resolve that made his grandfather's heart swell with pride. I get it. I really get it now. It's not about surviving on the margins. It's about building our own center. He clenched his fists, not in anger, but in determination. I don't want a seat at their table, Pops. I want to build our own, a bigger, stronger one, right here. His eyes, usually cast downwards or sideways, now met Pop's gaze with unwavering clarity, reflecting the bright future he had suddenly begun to perceive. Pops Elias simply nodded, a slow, knowing smile spreading across his face. The torch had been passed, not with ceremony, but with understanding. The flicker had become a flame. The next few months were a quiet revolution in Junior's life. The expensive sneakers vanished, replaced by more practical, sturdy footwear. The suspicious calls stopped. He redirected his restless energy not to the streets, but to the community college, enrolling in evening business courses. His initial ventures were humble, a testament to Pop's real business philosophy. He started a local lawn care and landscaping service, leveraging his innate energy and the network of his friends, convincing them that legitimate earnings, though slower, were fertile ground for lasting growth, unlike the scorched earth of illicit dealings. He pored over business plans, devouring books on entrepreneurship and community economics, his mind a sponge soaking up knowledge. He remembered Pop's words about unity. Instead of competing aggressively with other small businesses in the neighborhood, he sought collaboration. He partnered with a local handyman, an older gentleman named Mr. Henderson, offering combined services. He even convinced Malik, fresh out of his legal troubles and disheartened, to join him, offering him a steady, honest job and a stake in the growing enterprise. "This isn't just about cutting grass, Malik," Junior had told him, reflecting Pop's wisdom. "It's about cultivating wealth, cultivating trust, cultivating a future." Junior started attending community meetings, initially just listening, then slowly, tentatively offering ideas. He spoke about pooling resources, about supporting local Black-owned businesses, echoing Pop's vision of a country within a country. He initiated a neighborhood beautification project, organizing volunteers, many of them young men who, like him, had once been on the fringes. He transformed derelict lots into vibrant community gardens, symbolically turning barren land into a source of sustenance and beauty. These actions, small yet consistent, were threads in a new tapestry, weaving together a stronger, more vibrant community. There were setbacks, of course. A customer complained, a truck broke down, a payment was delayed. But Junior, armed with clarity and direction, navigated these challenges with a resilience he hadn't known he possessed. He remembered Pop's warning about liquor store traps, not just bottles, but anything that could impair his judgment or divert his focus. He learned to budget, to save, to invest a portion of his modest profits back into the business, watching it expand, slowly but surely. Each legitimate dollar earned felt heavier, more meaningful than any quick gain he had ever contemplated. Pops Elias watched it all, his heart swelling with a quiet joy. He would often see Junior on the porch, now with a tablet instead of idle hands, sketching designs for new community spaces or analyzing market trends. The boy had found his compass, and it pointed true north. Years melted into a decade. Junior Ballentine Francis was no longer just Junior. He was Mr. Francis, a respected name in the community. His landscaping business, now diversified into property management and urban development, had grown exponentially. It provided not just jobs, but career paths, mentorships, and an ownership stake for many of the young men and women he'd brought in, transforming lives. Malik, once lost, was now his operations manager, a testament to second chances and the power of a guiding hand. The old neighborhood, once characterized by liquor stores and boarded-up shops, now buzzed with new life. Thanks in no small part to Junior's initiatives, there was a community-owned grocery store, a credit union that invested locally, and a youth entrepreneurship hub. The community gardens flourished, yielding not just produce, but also a deeper sense of belonging and collective pride. Junior had become a quiet architect of the country within a country that Pops had envisioned. He had helped build a new table, right there, where everyone who contributed had a rightful, uninvited seat. The celebration came on a crisp autumn evening. The grand opening of the Elias Ballentine Community Cultural Center, a magnificent building, once a dilapidated, abandoned factory, now transformed into a beacon of hope, a place for arts, education, and community gatherings, funded by Junior's companies and other local businesses he had inspired. The name, a tribute to the man who had laid the blueprint. Pops Elias, now in his 90s, frail but his eyes still sharp as ever, sat in the front row, a place of honor. He watched as Junior, composed and articulate, spoke to the packed hall. "This center," Junior said, his voice carrying the deep resonance of purpose, "is a testament to what we can achieve when we stop looking for a seat at someone else's table and start building our own. It's about ownership, about generational wealth, about realizing our collective power. It's about remembering the wisdom passed down, those nuggets of truth from those who paved the way." He paused, his gaze finding Pops. "My grandfather, Elias Ballentine, taught me that America is a machine, and we are its vital parts. But he also taught me that we have the power to be a system within ourselves, if only we unite, build, and have clarity and direction." The applause was thunderous, a symphony of progress. Later, as the crowd mingled, Junior went to Pops, kneeling beside his chair. "You built this, Pops," Junior whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You laid the first stone years ago on that porch swing." Pops reached out a trembling hand, placing it on Junior's head. A silent blessing, a complete circle. "No, son," he rasped, his voice soft but clear. "I just handed you the blueprint. You, Junior, you built the house. And you've ensured our children and their children will always have a place to call home, a table to own, and a legacy to carry forward." The lights of the Ballentine Cultural Center shone bright, a beacon of self-determination, illuminating not just the neighborhood, but the path for generations to come. The legacy was forged, enduring and celebrated.